Hello everyone, it's Ms Redmond here. Welcome to lesson 3 of the reproduction topic. It is called What Happens During Fertilisation and Implantation. If you haven't got one already, please go and grab yourself a pen and a piece of paper so that you can make notes. Here's the success criteria for this lesson. Feel free to pause the video and write those down. Okay, so we're going to talk in more detail about the menstrual cycle later on, but the important part for this lesson is that a woman releases an egg, so the female gamete, during her menstrual cycle at about day 14, and that's called ovulation. Once released, it begins to move slowly down the oviduct towards the uterus. So then a man and a woman have sex. The erect penis is inserted into the vagina. That's what you can see happening on this picture. This is actually an MRI scan. So there's the testes, there's the penis, and so the divide between the two bodies is about here. So this is the male on the right and the female on the left. So you can see the penis being inserted into the vagina and the uterus is up here. The man ejaculates. Ejaculation delivers millions of sperm into the vagina in a solution called semen. The sperm cells swim through the cervix, through the uterus and into the oviducts. Many sperms die along the way. So the sperm's being ejaculated into the vagina on this diagram, and they just swim randomly in all directions. When they get nearer the egg, they know where they're going because they can sense the chemicals that it's giving off. But at this point, they're just swimming randomly in all directions. That's why you need absolutely millions of them, because so many die. They get stuck in the vagina, they go the wrong way, they get trapped in the cervix, or they run out of energy and die along the way. So the sperm swim in all directions. Some go down the wrong oviduct where there's no egg. Some go down the correct oviduct towards the egg cell. And the sperm are specially adapted to do this job, as you know from the body systems topic, because they have a streamlined shape, a tail, and lots of mitochondria. Okay, the sperm are attracted to the egg once they are within the oviducts by its warmth and the hormones it releases. So far from being passive, the egg is actually giving off hormones which the sperm cells can detect so that they can tell where the egg cell is. Only a tiny proportion of sperm cells actually make it to the egg. The first sperm cell enters the egg, causing the egg's outer layer to harden, preventing any more sperm from entering. So again, this is something active that the egg is doing. As soon as one sperm cell has fused with the cell membrane of the egg and the nucleus has gone inside the egg cell, the egg hardens the outside layer so that no more sperm can enter. That's really important because sperm and egg cells both have 23 chromosomes, which is half of the total number that the human being needs. So if the egg were to allow more than one sperm cell in, they would have too many chromosomes, which would be disastrous. So it's only the nucleus of the sperm that actually goes inside the egg cell, and then the nucleus of the sperm and the egg cell fuse together, and that's called fertilisation. So here we've got a different diagram showing that, and we're underlining the point that the female gamete, the egg cell, has 23 chromosomes, and so does the sperm cell, the male gamete. And when they fuse together, that's called fertilisation. 23 plus 23 gives us 46, and that is the number of chromosomes that all humans have in their body. And then you don't need to know this word, but at this stage we call it a zygote, and that divides and divides and divides and eventually becomes the embryo, which becomes the fetus, which becomes the baby. The fertilised egg is moved down the oviduct by tiny hairs called cilia and then implants into the uterus lining. So all along the inside of the oviduct, there are these tiny cells which have even tinier hairs on them called cilia, and they sort of waft the fertilized egg cell down the oviduct towards the uterus. And then the uterus lining, this is what builds up during the menstrual cycle. We'll get into this in more detail in a later lesson. So this is a sort of spongy layer full of blood, and when the fertilized egg cell gets to here, it implants, actually goes into the spongy layer, and while it's there, it divides and divides and divides and turns into the embryo, which becomes the fetus, which becomes the baby. Again, we'll get into this in a later lesson in more detail. Gametes, eggs and sperms. So the differences between the two types of gametes are different sizes. The egg cell is about 1,000 times bigger, as you can see on the picture. The egg cell has large energy stores. That's important because it has to support itself until the placenta can grow and properly develop. We'll get into that in more detail later. And the sperm has a flagellum and lots of mitochondria and an enzyme-filled head to help it move. So the flagellum is the tail. It also has a streamlined shape. And the mitochondria are really important because they do respiration and release energy. And the enzyme-filled head allows the sperm to actually break through the cell membrane of the egg cell to fertilize it. The similarities are they both have 23 chromosomes rather than 46, and they're both called gametes. Here's your summary slide. Gametes are the reproductive cells, or the sex cells. They're egg and sperm in humans and ovules and pollen in plants. Egg cell is the female gamete. It's got 23 chromosomes. It's 1,000 times bigger than a sperm and it has a large energy store. The sperm is the male gamete. It's got 23 chromosomes as well, but it's 1,000 times smaller than the egg. It has a flagellum, streamlined shape, and mitochondria. Second keyword slide. Fertilisation. The nuclei of the egg and sperm, or pollen, fuse together. Cilia are the tiny hairs on the surface of cells that waft the fertilised egg towards the uterus. Ejaculation is when the male releases semen, which contains sperm cells. The embryo is the ball of cells that's formed when the fertilised egg has divided several times. And implantation is when the embryo attaches to the lining of the uterus. Thank you very much for listening. I will speak to you next time.